Right. So thanks everyone for coming along to another ShareWise webinar. I'm Luke, one of the investment managers here, and I'm joined by Gino. So firstly, Gino, thanks for coming along, and I'm really looking forward to the webinar. I was just hoping that you could firstly just quickly introduce yourself, and then obviously just a brief introduction of Askari Metals.
Perfect. No, thanks, Luke, and thanks for hosting the ShareWise webinar this morning as well. So, a little bit of a background on myself. So, I'm the founder and executive director of Askari Metals. My background is mining and investment finance. So, I've been in the mining sector for approximately 17 years. I've worked across many different investing jurisdictions, most recently spending quite a large amount of my time in Africa. So, Botswana, Namibia, Tanzania, and most recently in Ethiopia as well. My background is also, of course, organizing data and project acquisitions, finding and sourcing suitable management teams, and then seed funding and raising funds to explore and develop the assets. Askari Metals is one that I have been involved in since its IPO in 2021. And where we're positioning Askari at the moment is to be that African-focused exploration and development company. We've built ourselves with a strong African team based on the investments that we made in Namibia approximately 3 years ago. And we've also now just expanded our land holding and our exploration focus, I should say, into Ethiopia as well. But we're leveraging our expertise and our first mover advantage, owing from the basis of having our African team and experiences already in place.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks so much for that. So I think what we'll do today, you mentioned you've got a presentation there. So I think we'll just jump straight into that presentation. For those that have attended, write some questions down and we'll get those answered at the end. And yeah, as I said, we'll follow up with a bit of a questionnaire. So let's get into it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll just share my screen on the presentation now as well.
Beautiful.
So I'm hoping that's clear on screen then for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So really this presentation, as the name suggests, is about what Askari is doing strategically in building a tier one portfolio in Ethiopia. Ethiopia, given the location, it's based on the Arabian Nubian Shield. It's extremely underexplored, and that leads itself to a number of different discovery opportunities. And so, for a company such as Askari, where we've built an African team already, based on the investments that we've made in Namibia, we believe that we're well positioned to capitalize on our opportunity and our expertise in Africa and expand our exploration footprint into Ethiopia as well. So a little bit about the company to begin with. So I've introduced myself. My name, as we said, Gino Deanna, but I've also got my chairman, Robert Downey, who's a commercial corporate lawyer, Tim Morrison, non-executive director, and Stuart Usher, our company secretary and CFO. Now, the relevance of the board certainly is that we have vast amounts of experience in natural resources, but we've also got experience across many different investing jurisdictions. So not just in Australia, but also, as I mentioned before, Africa, Canada as well. From a capital structure perspective, with our market capitalization, it's approximately $3.6 million. We've got 404 million shares out there. But most importantly, our top 20 retains ownership of approximately 55%. So what that means for Askari and I suppose in terms of where we're moving towards from a strategic perspective is that we're leveraged for discovery and we're leveraged for exploration success. We've also complemented our board and management with some very technically focused precious metals experts. Bonifacius Katanga joins us. He is our expert in the Uis project in Namibia. So Bonnie has got specific experience on rare metal pegmatites, and the Uis project for us is what we determined to be a polymetallic opportunity. So not just hosting high-grade lithium, but also high-grade tin, tantalum, and rubidium. Surafel Wandemigejinin is our general manager in Ethiopia. He's only just joined us recently. He's come through with the recent acquisition of the Nejo Gold Project there. But as you can see from Surafel's bio, lots of experience in gold and copper porphyry systems, specifically in Ethiopia. So he joins us with quite a substantial amount of experience and expertise, and he's going to be very much the key driver behind our strategic developments in Ethiopia. Now, this presentation really is going to focus on our recent acquisition of the Nejo Gold Project. For us, Nejo, it's an advanced brownfields asset. It's district scale land holding, so it spans 1,174 square kilometers. But as I mentioned before, it's located on that Arabian-Nubian Shield. So that Arabian-Nubian Shield hosts multi-million ounce gold discoveries and deposits all the way from in the north at Saudi Arabia, all the way down through into Kenya, into Ethiopia, and into Yemen as well. Now, from an exploration perspective, where we benefit from the fact that there's been extensive exploration undertaken in the past. So through that process, obviously data compilation and digitizing all that information is going to be a key focus for the company in the very near term. But what it means for us is that there's a number of high grade proven um, mineralization that's been drill tested, it's been trenched, been sampled, but nothing systematic. So from a company for Askari to be able to go in there and mobilize a field team and undertake systematic exploration focused on the known targets is going to give us a distinct advantage compared to just an explorer that's only just starting out to get its position set. What's really important about the Nejo Gold Project as well is that it's located on the same greenstone gold belt that hosts the 3.4 million ounce Kermuck deposit and discovery, which is owned by Allied Gold and is going to be going into production shortly, targeting 290,000 ounces per annum of production. But Nejo also surrounds a Tulu Kapi mining license, which is owned by Kefi, a London listed company, which has a 1.7 million ounce open cut and underground resource at an average grade of 2.65 gram a ton. So strategically, Nejo is extremely well located. It benefits from the known infrastructure that services both Tulu Kapi and the Kermuck mine further to the north. So we've got drive-in all-weather road access to the project as well. Now that's important, of course, because it means that we can focus on our dollars going into the ground in exploration and in drilling and trenching and in sampling, as opposed to having to worry about mobilizing rigs with use of helicopters or other remote tools and operations. So what is Askari trying to do in Ethiopia? So as I mentioned, building that tier one gold portfolio, that's our focus. We believe we've got that now with the flagship Nejo Gold Project. It complements what we've acquired in May this year as well, being there's Adola Greenstone Belt gold projects, which are further down into the south. Now, they're two very different gold belts, but they complement each other from the perspective that Nejo is an advanced brownfields opportunity. And by comparison, the Adola Belt projects are early stage assets. So, what we believe we can do and what we can achieve is multiple streams of exploration being undertaken at the same time. So, shareholders and investors would benefit from obviously seeing drilling undertaken on those known targets at Nejo, such as Guji, Kumtu 1 or Kumtu 2. But they'll also see earlier stage exploration being undertaken at the Adola Belt projects, and specifically around Magado, for example, and Sakara and Sakara East, and Legadembe up in the north. So there's going to be plenty of news flow from the Ethiopian exploration objectives of the company. We believe that that's going to enable us to take Askari into the next level and give an investor and shareholders a decent return on their capital as well. Where do we want to get to for Askari at Nejo is really advancing that pathway to the JORC maiden mineral resource estimate. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a number of known targets. There's 10, in fact, known targets on the Nejo Gold Project, all very much focused on the southern license. Now, the reason why prior exploration focused on the southern license was because of its proximity to the Tulu Kapi mine and the proposed concentrator. So the idea of the previous explorers that owned the project was to generate satellite deposits and feedstock that would amalgamate into the Tulu Kapi operation. Now, what that means for Askari, and this is something that's very important, is that a lot of the exploration work that has generated the key targets, those 10 key targets, has been focused on the mineralized mine extensions of Tulu Kapi. So we know that we've got proven gold mineralization of a very high grade, close to surface, in areas that haven't been systematically explored and areas that haven't been drilled and followed up since 2011, with the most recent exploration campaign being 2013. So for the last 10 to 12 years and even more, there's been a hiatus in exploration at the Nejo project. Now that just means for Askari, given that we've got the field teams in Ethiopia, we've got the field teams in Africa, where our focused exploration objective is Africa, we can escalate and prioritize those target areas to mobilize drill rigs to verify and check and confirm the historical drill intersections. And then we can also undertake earlier stage trenching and sampling work on the licenses that are further to the north of Tulukapi. Remembering, of course, that Nejo, it's a land holding district scale of nearly 1,200 square kilometers. So there's a number of exploration targets further along strike and up into the northern licenses that haven't been looked at, despite very large soil geochemical anomalies that have been delineated. Limited drilling and limited trenching has been undertaken, and therein lies the real opportunity for the company to scale up and demonstrate that Nejo has the potential to be another Kermark or another Tulukapi mine. This slide here kind of gives you a bit of an indication for where we want to move to, as I've been saying sort of throughout the presentation. We've got these 10 targets. We know the gold is there. We know the mineralization is high grade. It's not been systematically explored. The key for the company in this particular point then is to systematically explore those key targets and quickly get ourselves up the curve in terms of that pathway to the JORC resource. Now, we're targeting 2 million ounces as a baseline for our Nejo Gold project. The number there comes from a compilation of historical exploration work. We've already done the work in the background to try and understand what is the scale potential of the project. Now, we're obviously drawing in resources from Tulukapi, looking at the extensions of that project into our licenses, and we're understanding that the potential of the project is significant. We've seen historical exploration such as that Dina target, 7.1 meters at 30.3 grams a ton gold. We've got long intersections such as at Guji prospect, 44 meters at 1.7 grams a ton gold. But these are only some of the examples of the historical exploration. So, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there's a lot of information there that the company can synthesize and can go across and compile and digitize that will enable us to really be up the curve on our exploration and objectives. And that the key for us is to hit that maiden resource milestone within the first 12 months of starting to get boots on the ground. Our focus is low cost, large scale open cut mining operations, and certainly in an area and in a part of the world where they understand open cut mining. East Africa is very well known for hosting some of the largest gold and copper deposits, such as Dawe Kota, which is 17.7 million ounces of gold, Kermark, which I've mentioned at 3.4 million ounces, but also Sakara and Legadembe, which is approximately 3.6 million ounces. So there's a lot of gold that has been discovered along that Arabian-Nubian shield, but there's also a number of opportunities that still remain undiscovered or undeveloped in the case of Nejo. I just want to give you a bit of an update or more of a background with respect to Ethiopia as an investment jurisdiction, because I think it's important for investors to understand that when you think about Ethiopia, yes, it's a developing country, but it's also a very developed country. That Horn of Africa, that East African region, it really is a melting pot for other African nations. And so you've got a kind of culture in Ethiopia where other African nations have come into the country and set themselves up as far as businesses are concerned. So you've got quite an advanced economic footprint, and you've got a very pro-mining friendly government that's understanding the importance of not just gold mining to the country from a GDP perspective, but understands the opportunities that also exist in rare metal exploration and critical metal exploration, which is something that's become very topical of recent times. And I think given the location of Ethiopia and the broader East African region, certainly ties back into the Asian markets and in particular into China as well. So there's some statistics there as far as Ethiopia is concerned. So it's the second largest consumer market in Africa. As I indicated, a number of different businesses operate from Ethiopia. It's very strategically located as an African continent to service Eastern South Africa, but also into the Asian markets as well. From a mining perspective, there's 24 mining companies currently in operation there. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider the what I mentioned earlier around that hiatus in exploration between sort of 2011 to 2000 to now to 2025, it kind of gives you an idea as to why there's not a more significant number of exploration companies or operations in Ethiopia. That's changing. We're seeing a lot more activity. We're seeing a lot more activity from Canadian companies now exploring and coming into Africa as well, and into Ethiopia in particular. We're also seeing a lot more action and activity from Australian companies coming back into these Eastern African regions. And the key reason for that is, as I mentioned before, safe political environments, pro-mining friendly investment jurisdiction, but very heavily underexplored. And you can get land, as we've done with the Southern Adola Belt projects and what we've done at Nejo, you can get projects and opportunities that are very advanced brownfields that are along strike of large, significant known deposits. The next pictorial, it gives you just an indication for the craton size between Australia and Ethiopia, that Arabian-Nubian shield. Now you can see that the size of the craton in Australia, in WA, which is the gold-bearing region of Australia, of Western Australia specifically, the size of those cratons are very similar. Now the difference being that Australia has seen quite significant exploration over a prolonged period of time in comparison to what has been undertaken on that Arabian-Nubian shield. Now, as we say, it is one of the last mineral-rich frontier belts that host multiple large-scale gold and copper deposits. Highly prospective land holdings, host of large-scale deposits, as I mentioned, Dawe Kote, previously Legadembe, Sakaro, and this is all despite receiving minimal modern-day exploration. So when you consider drilling and exploration that dates back to the 1970s and then sort of progressed through to early 2000s to 2010, 2011, 2012, and then a gap in exploration, it gives you an idea that, okay, modern exploration techniques, modern equipment, geophysics, the use of more detailed soil geochemical surveys, more advanced analytical tools definitely gives you an indication that, okay, the potential to delineate and discover large-scale deposits in Ethiopia on that Arabian-Nubian shield is significant. And that's what Askari is focused on. That's what Askari is going to be known for. We're positioning our company to be that African-focused exploration and development company with flagship assets in Ethiopia, starting with the Nejo Gold Project. So now some background on Nejo. So I've indicated already district scale land holding, nearly 1,200 square kilometers, very underexplored zone of mineralization, but it's located in a globally significant gold and copper region. Low geological risk. Why is that important? We've got 10 known gold targets. We know the gold's there. We know the grade of the gold. They're mineralized extensions of that Tulu Kapi mining license, the Tulu Kapi project, that 1.7 million ounce gold project. Now, no systematic exploration. That's a key for the company because systematic exploration, in our opinion, is what's going to unlock and drive the future full value for the company, for Askari, and demonstrate the real potential of Nejo to our investors and shareholders. But we've also acquired cleverly. We haven't paid over the odds for the opportunity for the acquisition of the asset. It's cost us $200,000 in cash and $200,000 in shares in the company, with the issue of some significantly out of the money options, which become a future funding tool for the company as well. Now, it's key for me to illustrate why the acquisition costs are as attractive as they are. And that's because the partner that we have in country, in Ethiopia, has been instrumental in designing and defining the opportunity for the company. What that means is that we've been able to acquire with attractive terms, knowing that we've got the backing of the local community and that we've got the backing of the government as well. This is really important for Askari because we're a new entrant into Ethiopia as a mining and investment jurisdiction for Askari, but we bring with us our expertise and our experience in dealing in Africa based on what we've been doing already in Namibia and what we've also been experiencing with the company in Tanzania of recent times as well. We're in a tier one geological setting. As I mentioned before, we're on the same geological greenstone belt as the 3.4 million ounce Kermac mine, and we're the mineralized extensions of that 1.7 million ounce Tulu Kapi mine. It's drill tested and it's proven. We surround Tulu Kapi. We've got gold mineralized extensions of that mining, of that resource. This next slide, I think this next slide indicates and really demonstrates the real potential of the Nejo Gold Project, and it underscores only a small number of the exploration results from historical work that's been done, but it illustrates with good point those extensions, as I mentioned, of Tulu Kapi. So Tulu Kapi on the image there on the figure is the shaded blue circle. Now, as you can see, we've got targets directly to the south, but also targets as you move across to the west on these parallel and subparallel structures as well. But even the exploration that's been undertaken previously, as I mentioned before, it's not been systematic. It's been somewhat sporadic, moving from target to target to generate very high grade hits without really going back to those zones and following them up again with further exploration. But there's an extensive exploration database that exists. There's more than 60 kilometers of prospective strike along what they call the Tulu-Dimtu shear belt. Now, that Tulu-Dimtu shear belt, as I mentioned before, it's the same belt that hosts Kermac, same belt that hosts Tulu Kapi, and it's the same belt that hosts further gold mining operations up into the north as well. And also, there's VMS-style deposits up in that Tigray region as well. Robust historical exploration. That's key. We can rely on the historical exploration that's been undertaken. It's been completed to a standard that our technical consultants are satisfied with. And we're going through that data compilation exercise at the moment, generating further information about those targets, which demonstrate, again, as I mentioned, the high grade near surface nature of the gold mineralization. There's 10 targets already known. Those 10 targets are largely focused on the southern license. And as I mentioned before, the key reason for that is because it was generated or designed, sorry, to be a feed for the Tulu Kapi mine and the proposed concentrator. What does that mean for the company? Of course, there's further targets up along strike to the north on our northern licenses. And there's also the potential for high grade copper mineralization as well. We're on our pathway to fast track our JORC resource. So at the moment, the company is designing its first drill campaign. It's going to consist of early stage confirmation and verification drilling, more than likely focused initially around Guji, Kumto 1 and Kumto 2. The idea being that we verify the historical drill intersects and we then move forward to grid style drilling to then generate the beginnings of our resource. There's lots of visible gold in the drilling as well. That's the other key here. We know the fertility of the greenstone belt is well understood. We know that it's been mapped in some areas very well. And we know that soil geochemical sampling for both gold, copper, and other base metals has demonstrated other zones of mineralization that still haven't been followed up. And so, as I mentioned earlier, systematic exploration is definitely going to be the key for Askari in terms of unlocking the full value potential of our project. This next slide gives you an overview of the drilling and trenching work that's been undertaken at Guji, Kumta 1, and Kumta 2. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read through each of those call out boxes. It's clear from the drilling that's been completed that there is obvious strike continuity. There's approximately 9 kilometers of strike continuity between Guji and Kumtu 1 in the south. Now, again, it hasn't been systematically explored. They've followed this thing along strike in most parts, but as you can see where it's gone undercover, there's an absence of drilling. So they've drilled those outcropped areas, but in areas where it's dived undercover, they haven't drill tested there. Now, the key reason for that is old geophysics, old technology. So, of course, one of the key foundations for Askari is to mobilize and undertake a detailed high-resolution magnetic geophysical survey to demonstrate those structures and that continuity. We then drill test that. This is where our maiden resource is going to come from. It's this area here. We know that we've got good thicknesses of great high-grade mineralization. There's been an extensive geosampling survey that's been completed as well, which really backs up the data from the drilling and the trenching. But again, as I mentioned before, very sporadic drilling, focused in areas that are known as outcropping zones, where you can see the mineralization of the quartz veins that host the gold mineralization there. It's a typical orogenic gold style of deposit, but it's largely underexplored, as I mentioned. Let's talk generally about the Arabian-Nubian Shield. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I just want to illustrate, I suppose, and it backs up the earlier slide where we compared the craton sizes of Australia and this Arabian Shield, and show why I suppose there's such a large number of gold and copper deposits and also VMS style deposits along this zone, very much concentrated around Saudi Arabia. Now, the reason for that is because lots of exploration. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Eritrea, large scale deposits have seen a lot of exploration historically. Further down to the south in Ethiopia, same greenstone belt again, but not a lot of exploration, despite there being some extremely large gold and copper and VMS style deposits in Ethiopia. There's just still an absence of explorers that are systematically working this greenstone belt. So, from a first mover advantage perspective, we believe that we're positioned ourselves neatly in terms of being able to demonstrate our capability to execute and be able to acquire lands in very advanced areas along strike of very large known high grade deposits. We've done it in the south of Ethiopia at the Adola Greenstone Belt gold projects, and we've done it most recently with the acquisition of Nejo. Sorry, my computer froze there for a moment. Apologies for that. So just to introduce now, from a complementary standpoint, the Adola Greenstone Belt gold projects. So we entered into an agreement in late April this year to acquire a portfolio of gold projects, earlier stage assets in that southern gold belt of Ethiopia. But as you can see from the figure on screen, the tenements that we've acquired are along strike of large known deposits. If you look at Magado in the center, it sits between Legadembe up in the north and Sakara and Dawe Kote in the south. Again, same mineralized systems, same greenstone gold belt, hasn't seen any exploration undertaken. Sakaro itself, located closest to the Sakaro mine, 630,000 ounces. Legadembe South, located close to the Legadembe mine, 2.5 million ounces. And then you've got Sakaro West as well. So again, good deposits, strategically located projects, needs to be undertaken through systematic early stage exploration, complementing what we're doing on the Nejo project as well. Wayuboda in the south has been the subject of a previous joint venture with large mining company Centamin, and we've been on site there. As you can see, I'm just going to skip ahead a couple of slides and I'll come back, sorry. But we've been on site at Wayuboda, and as you can see, we've got the right mineralization systems on our project area. Those thick quartz veins, the potential for copper mineralization, as you can see from the pictures of the green staining, it's chalcopyrite, it's malachite. We've got the potential to be able to really get in and generate some very nice high grade intersections early on through sampling, through mapping. We'll then undertake systematic trenching and then graduate those targets into drilling targets. Now, if I just go back a couple of slides, just to give you a bit more of an indication again from the visit that we made at some of the other project areas, for example, Legadembe South, again, same thing. We've been there, we've visited. It's a long strike of known mining operations. We've got the right mineralization, the right rocks. It's been artisanally mined. We know we're in the right areas, but no systematic exploration undertaken again. So therein lies again the opportunity for the company to really lift off from where previous explorers and artisanal miners have finished and actually target a systematic exploration across our vast footprint. The same is true for Sakaro. Again, mechanized excavations, mechanized trenching, the milky, juicy quartz veins that carry the gold, we've seen them. We've been on site, we've sampled them. They came back gold hosting, of course, mineralized veins. Magado. Now, Magado for us, large footprint. It's sandwiched within two known deposits, as I mentioned, Zakara in the north, Legadembe, and Dawa Kote in the south. A long strike of other gold mineralization and gold occurrences, but no work's been done at Magado. So for us, it is an early stage opportunity, one that we think we can capitalize on through a project scale soil geochemical sampling program, and then migrate that through into trenching and drilling, as I said before. But all of this exploration at the Adola Belt projects in the south will be complementary and can be done systematically at the same time as we're fast tracking the drilling at Guji, Kumta 1 and Kumta 2 as part of our Nejo Gold Project. So that's the end of the presentation. So thanks very much for listening in. And of course, if you have any further questions outside of the webinar, please feel free. My contact details are there and I'm always accessible and available. So please feel free to reach out as well.
Thanks very much, Gino. That was a very thorough presentation, and I can almost guarantee that many questions have been answered already, as well as mine. But I guess, just to summarize before we part ways, as I said, a lot of my questions were answered, but I guess if you could just answer them as more of like a summary in maybe 1 to 2 sentences, so we can leave folks with just a pertinent message, that'd be great. Thanks, Gino.
Sure.
So my first question was, and I guess the main topic of discussion will be the Nejo Gold Project, right? And I guess my first question was, what makes the Nejo Gold Project a transformational acquisition for Askari Metals? And how does it align with your strategic vision to become a tier one African gold developer?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, in a nutshell, right, given the district scale land holding of Nejo, given its strategic location along strike of the Tulukapi mine and in fact surrounding the Tulukapi mine, it becomes transformational from the perspective that it's an advanced brownfields asset. As I mentioned during the presentation, lots of historical exploration, drilling, trenching, identified high-grade, near-surface, shallow gold mineralization. So it really does stand to be a flagship project for the company, and it really will be our focus. To me, Nejo gives us that pillar of being that African gold exploration company, and in fact, really moves quite quickly into the development phase as well, based on what our expectations are of being able to materialize and move forward towards that JORC maiden resource as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Yep, yep. And I guess given the high grade historical drill results and underexplored nature of the tenement, how quickly can Askari Metals move towards a maiden JORC mineral resource estimate?
Yeah, so we'll be looking to mobilize teams into the field to start drilling around September. Now that sounds like a couple of months away, and it's a fairly quick succession. But the reason that we're able to do that is, as I mentioned during the presentation, we've got the African team in place already. We've got the experience. We know gold. Surafel, that's a general manager in Ethiopia, also is geologist, senior geologist. He understands the project. He's been on the project for the last 5 years. So we can mobilize a team into the field very quickly and execute our drill campaigns along that Guji Kumtu 1, Kumtu 2 strike extension, that 9 kilometers that I mentioned earlier. Now, we will be doing that at the same time as what we're flying geophysics and really utilizing that information to help us prioritize other areas for drilling. I do believe that we can be at a JORC resource within 12 months from execution of that first drill campaign, and maybe even sooner.
Yeah, okay. Yep, yep. And so just on that, I guess what is the scale opportunity in copper at Nejo? And how does that dual commodity potential influence your development strategy?
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting, right? We're still going through that data compilation exercise at the moment, but what we've found through the historic works in an area known as Kata, which is quite far up into the north, it was historically looked at by UNDP back in 1967. So that's quite a long time ago, as you can appreciate. They started off by doing some soil geochemical surveys of a very limited nature and then rushed straight into drilling. But even notwithstanding the fact that they moved to drilling very quickly, they drilled some very nice outcropping gossans, which were carrying some very high grade copper. So we're at the moment just digitizing some of that information. But we know that there were 6 holes drilled by the UNDP over approximately 600 meters of strike of these outcropping gossans, and quite significant grades of copper mineralization were intersected. Now, your question in respect to how is it going to work from a gold versus copper mineralization and exploration perspective, it's really quite, I suppose, beneficial from the fact that they don't commingle. What we see in the south is tending to be very clean orogenic gold mineralization. So there's low levels of other byproducts in the drill assays. It's predominantly a gold area. Now that's different to what we're seeing in the north, of course, which is very high grades of copper and also other base metals. It almost looks more of a VMS style of a deposit and an opportunity there. So we believe that what we can do, of course, and this is where shareholders and investors are going to benefit from multiple streams of exploration being done concurrently, is that we believe that we can be generating information and news flow on the gold prospects in the south at the same time as what we're exploring and hitting these high grade copper mineralization up in the north. It'll be really interesting to continue that process of the data compilation exercise because I can see it already now, given the rich history of exploration that's been undertaken across that 1,200 square kilometers. I can see that there's going to be a lot of news flow just coming through from the works that we're doing in terms of analyzing that historical exploration work in more detail.
Absolutely. Yep, yep. And my final question was, what are the key exploration milestones and as well as catalysts that investors should watch for over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what we're planning at the moment is to mobilize boots to the ground to undertake the detailed geophysical survey. That'll obviously highlight the structures, those magnetic structures that are hosting the quartz veins and the gold mineralization. That's going to give shareholders and investors an early indication to the scale potential of the project. We'll then move to doing some rock sampling and some trenching and some mapping on other areas of the licenses, those licenses further up into the north, away from Tulu Kapi. And that's to generate our what we call our priority B targets and priority C targets. But at the same time as what we're sending a separate geological team into the field to do that work, we'll be mobilizing an RC rig to target Guji, Kumtu 1 and Kumtu 2. So lots of news flow for shareholders and investors to look forward to. We're going to waste no time in terms of setting ourselves up in country. We've got the baseline staff in place already to help take the company forward in this new strategic direction. We're going to be opening our office very shortly as well. We've been doing presentations to the government, to the local community to make sure that we've got that social license tick as well. Um, but I believe that what we're going to be able to demonstrate to our shareholders and our investors is that we'll make that return back to the aggressive and rapid exploration execution for Askari and focused, as I mentioned before, on having multiple streams of exploration being undertaken at the same time, looking drilling Guji, Kumtu 1, Kumtu 2, as well as doing the trenching, rock sampling on the other areas, and also geophysics. Geophysics is going to be key to unlocking the real potential of Nejo. Because, as I mentioned before, a lot of technology advancements have been obviously endorsed over the last 40, 50 years. And I think that's going to be key to, I suppose, showing the true potential and unlocking that real value of Nejo outside of just drilling and getting ourselves to that maiden MRE status.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Well, look, Gino, that they're all the questions I had. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for your time and thanks everyone for coming along to the webinar. I really appreciate you all attending, and as I said, I appreciate your time, Gino. So thank you very much, and we'll call it there.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Luke, and I appreciate you organizing the webinar for me as well.
No problem at all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.